This is Charles Bird, your host, and welcome to the June 10th, 2020 edition of Rant-Om Thoughts. This is the new episode 18. I did shoot and drop a video a few nights ago, and then this morning, as I rewatched it to share with a friend of mine, I noticed some gaffes that I had made. The method to my madness in making Rant-Om Thoughts is that it's unscripted, and I speak from here. And there are times when I think faster than I speak, and the words don't come out the way I intend them to. So I'm gonna try once again to make the point I tried getting across this weekend. Okay, those of you who know me in person and who have followed me on social media for a while know that I have been outspoken on the topic of, police brutality and police corruption. And yes, the murder of George Floyd was horrible. No sane person is defending this. Sure, he had a record. Sure, he had an illicit substance in his system, but that doesn't explain or justify the rough treatment that led to his death. Now, there are people who are asking me two questions. Why am I not participating in the protests, and why am I so hard on the looters? Well, the reason why I'm not participating in the George Floyd protests is because most of the participants, at least locally, a lot of them are the same people who wished imprisonment, disease, and death on me for opposing the lockdowns. They trivialized my concern about the damaged economy, the assault on civil liberties, and the horrendous cultural changes that sprung out of the lockdowns as, oh, you're just butthurt because you can't get a haircut. Oh, you're just big mad because you can't go to Applebee's. I'm not going to march side by side with those people, no matter how noble the cause. To hell with them. That's right. To hell with them. They can go to hell and take the express. Spent 3 years, 3 months accusing me of wanting people to die and being selfish because I was concerned about people killing themselves. Yeah, So, and truth be told, they don't care about police brutality. These are the same people who called the police on their neighbors for taking their kids to play in the park or just walking down the sidewalk. They're the same people who snitched on a friend of mine who operates a vacuum repair shop for remaining open. They don't care. And you know what? If they were in charge, they would just simply redirect state violence towards whoever they think the proper targets are. It's because they're totalitarians. They are totalitarian at heart. Now, why am I so hard on the looters? Well, just as police brutality is wrong, so is mob violence. It's that obvious. It's that simple. I don't care about the color of their skin or what grievances they have. There is just no justification for smashing storefronts, burning homes, defacing monuments, vandalizing churches, and beating up senior citizens. It's wrong. Period. End of discussion. I tend to lump people into two categories generally. You have the asset side of the ledger and the liability side of the ledger. Now, how do you tell who is on which side of the ledger? Well, if they're on the asset side of the ledger, what you do is you ask them the simple, yes or no question. Is the rioting, looting, burning, pillaging of our communities across the country wrong? Yes or no? And if they're on the asset side of the ledger, they'll say, yes, it is wrong. It is very wrong. Those on the liability side of the ledger will give you excuses, rationalizations, and lectures on social justice and so-called white privilege, which I'll get into a little bit later. And how we should just accept it and let them do what they want because they have a grievance. Well, I am done listening to that garbage. I am done listening to it. I will not listen to it. If you try to bring it up to my face, I'll just shout you down or leave the room because I am done listening to it. Period. Now, yes, police brutality and police corruption is a problem. I don't believe that it's because of so-called systemic racism. The idea that there's this dastardly conspiracy by white police officers to hunt down black people for sport. Uh, if you seriously believe that, then I feel sorry for you. You're stupid. And I can't imagine being as stupid as you are. No, it isn't. Well, I'll tell you what it is, what the real cause of it is. It's statism. It's the growth of government and our country's slide into authoritarianism that can be traced back to the administration of Woodrow Wilson and the Progressive era. And then it just steadily got worse after the Clinton years. The militarization of the police, no-knock warrant raids, a lot of that started during the Clinton era. Do you know that the first piece of legislation that started giving military equipment away to police officers, to police departments, was authored by no less than Joe Biden, the current Democrat Party nominee. So yeah, even before he went senile, he was a rotten bastard. You see, in the early '90s, to as part of a triangulation maneuver, the Democrats took crime and getting tough on it, law and order from the Republicans, and decided that they were going to be tougher on crime than the Republicans. And that's how you wound up with militarized local police and mandatory minimum sentencing for what are basically victimless crimes. Now, are there solutions to it? Yes, there are. One solution involves body cams. One of the things I like about Galen Carroll, the police chief here in Modesto, is that he required them even before Ferguson, even before anybody started you know talking about them, and it became a thing. And when he did that, citizen complaints dropped 80%. 80%. Now, the Modesto Police Department still has its problems. They still take their time on non-emergency calls. 911 response time is still very slow. They still drag their feet on property crime investigations, and it's still very quota driven. But it's still a big improvement over what we had, say, 10 years ago. Other solutions: ending the drug war, ending mandatory minimum sentencing, ending asset forfeiture, where it's legal for the police to just grab your property, whether you're guilty of something or not. Uh, Ending qualified immunity. That way, police officers and prosecutors can be sued individually. Busting the police unions, which have made citizen oversight of law enforcement systemically impotent. Whenever a police officer is caught doing something that he shouldn't be doing, the first words that almost always comes out of his mouth are, "Get me my union rep." Ending the war on drugs, which for well over a half century now has been nothing but a failure, just as big a failure as the prohibition of alcohol was 100 years ago. And ending laws against victimless crimes. Those are real solutions. Unfortunately, none of that's being none of that's being talked about by the organizers of the protest or by the country's, liberal establishment. In Minneapolis, where the Floyd killing took place, they're seriously talking about abolishing the police department. And what are they going to replace it with? Social workers, life coaches. Yeah. So that's who's going to be answering 911 calls when things get all pear shaped. Oh boy. Or defunding it and turning police functions over to, say, mental health clinicians or whatever, or welfare caseworkers. Was no, no, no. Those aren't real solutions. And as I said, a lot of those people, truth be truth be told, don't really care about police brutality. If it was up to them, they would redirect it to who they think the real targets are. I guarantee you, within a month, they'll move from all police are evil to only the police should have guns. Back to that position. Yeah. And then, of course, you have the First Amendment, right? Of course, the protests, the peaceful ones anyway, Yeah, they're protected by the First Amendment, but do they themselves care about the First Amendment? No. They didn't care about it during the quarantine when the churches were shut down. They were, a lot of them were very disappointed that the police weren't cracking our heads in when we were protesting the shutdowns. Yeah. And ask them what they think about hate speech, what they think constitutes hate speech, and what they believe the government should do about it. Yeah, they're frauds. One canard that's constantly being tossed about um, in the wake of this is white privilege. And let me tell you that it does not exist. If it does, then where's my cut? If it works the way that SJWs say it works, then I ought to be able to walk right on to European Motors here in Modesto, pick out a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari, and just have the keys handed to me for free. I mean that's the whole assumption that that's based on, is that white people just have stuff handed to them. The world doesn't work like that. It doesn't. I mean seriously. You know that old Eddie Murphy skit, "White Like Me," that he did for Saturday Night Live in the early '80s? That was satire. It was not a documentary. It was satire. It wasn't a documentary. So it's just bunk. I I despise racism. It's just another ugly form of collectivism that lumps individuals into groups. And the false alternative for racism is ethnomasochism. We're seeing this whole new culture now of appeasement and pandering. Grown men kneeling and bowing and apologizing for stuff they never did. It's disgusting, and I want no part of it. And I will resist it. Every fiber of my being. When I look at cases like George Floyd or Eric Garner, I don't see white or racist cops killing a black man. I see corrupt cops killing innocent men. And yes, their lives did indeed matter. But guess what? Black people aren't the only victims. Even Yadigar, Duncan Lemp, Tony Timpa, they were all white and they were all victims of corrupt police brutality. Their lives mattered too. All lives matter. We all bleed red. Well, that's all I got to say on the topic for now. There's a comedian and podcaster by the name of Dave Smith. I'm going to link below to an episode of his podcast on this topic where he puts it a lot better and a lot more eloquently than I ever could. He also does an interview with Tom Woods, another one of my favorite podcasters. Also on Twitter, there's a rapper slash metal vocalist by the name of Eric July who's been posting some dynamite commentary on this on his Twitter page, and I think he might have a YouTube channel. I don't know, but I'm going to link to his Twitter account below. So I'll see you next time. I might do a book review or a product review. I really look forward to seeing y'all again. June 19th, I'll be doing another virtual block party. Those are a lot of fun. And yes, my house is being invaded by flies, which is what I get for leaving the window open. To end this on a happy note, notice anything different about me? Yeah, it's my first haircut since March. Do I look as good as I feel? Yeah. Yeah, because of the guidelines, I had to wear a mask for 15 minutes, but it was only 15 minutes. And besides, I consider the guys at work their friends, so I wasn't gonna raise a big stink about it, you know. And it's just as big a hassle for them as it is for the general public. And hopefully by September, October, we won't have to go through that rigmarole anymore. Okay. Think while it's still legal. Vote gold. Reopen America. And yes, all lives matter.